unfortunately have Peacock. I get charged $6.50 for it every fucking month, and I never unsubscribe.
I do too.
I see it come out, I'm like, the fuck is that? Oh, Peacock again. It got me again.
I don't know how.
$6.50 every fucking month. So I have it.
The worst
I'll be able to stream it.
The worst one for me is the Fubo TV one. Whenever I want to watch a Pac-12 network game, I go get a new credit card and I subscribe to Fubo TV for the 7-day free trial. But those fuckers get you because if you, on most free trials, you can cancel immediately, right? And then it'll just let you finish the 7-day trial. No, Fubo, they aren't doing that shit, right? You have to, if you unsubscribe, they cancel your subscription immediately. So you gotta toe the line there. It's like playing Russian roulette with your $57. And if you want to watch that, you gotta I add on all the sports packages because it's fucking free, right? So I go and then I had done it about 17 times and I got away with it every time. And that damn 18th time I fucking forgot and they charged me $74.99 with all my packages.
You deserve that. You owe them that fucking money.
No, fuck Fubo TV. All right, bullshit. All right, that's why I go to YouTube TV.
Coming to you live from San Antonio, Texas. It's the Slobberknocker Sports Podcast. Now here are your hosts, Dylan and Uncle T.
Welcome into the Slobberknocker Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Leake, joined as always by my man, Uncle T over here. And we've got a good show today here for you guys. We're going to break down everything from the national championship and what we saw last night transpire between Michigan and Washington. We're going to get into some NFL wildcard action and talk about some coaching carousel in the NFL at the end. But let's start with the biggest storyline in sports, and that is what we saw transpire last night, where the Michigan Wolverines complete the perfect 15-0 season. They take down the Washington Huskies 34-13. Score maybe not indicative of how close the game was for most of the game, although I do think Michigan dominated throughout. The Huskies were outgained by 142 yards. Outgained by 3.5 yards per play. They held Washington to just 300 yards of total offense, 4.2 yards per play, and 13 total points. They were all season lows for the Husky this year. Michael Penix did not have a good game. Bad showing from Penix. 27 for 51, 255 yards, just 5 yards per pass, had a touchdown and 2 crucial interceptions in the second half. And the Washington ground game absolutely could get nothing going. Dylan Johnson was obviously hobbled by an injury. He was trying to gut it out, but nothing doing. They had 20 carries for just 46 yards, barely 2 yards a carry on the night.
I'm surprised he even played.
I can't believe he played. I got to give it to him for playing, but I also think they should have pulled him out at some point. But look, Michigan dominated this game from the jump, right? First drive of the game, Michigan goes 8 plays, 84 yards. They cap it off with a 41-yard Donovan Edwards touchdown run. And they score on their first 3 drives, right? Touchdown, field goal, and they go up 17-3 before we saw a little bit of resistance from Washington as they score right before the half to get it to a 1-score game going into halftime. Now, look, J.J. McCarthy didn't have a great game, right? 10 of 18, just 140 yards. He didn't have any touchdowns, but he didn't make any crucial mistakes either, and he made some big plays.
That's what I thought they were going to do.
Right.
I didn't even think – I mean, I would have thought he would have thrown it at least 20 times, I guess, but not more than that.
He didn't make any crucial mistakes, though, and in that big drive where they were up 7 and they finally put the game away, he made some big-time throws on that drive. But the story of the game was twofold. It was, number one, the Michigan running game. They ran as a team for 300-plus yards, 4 touchdowns, 8 yards per carry. Washington could not stop the ground game of Michigan. And then that defense was outstanding. 2 interceptions forced. Washington could just not get in any rhythm. They were physical. They got to Penix all night, although they didn't sack him but one time. So obviously I want you to give me your main takeaways from what you saw last night. But my main question to you is, when we saw this Washington offense against the Longhorns last week in the Sugar Bowl, it was night and day to what we saw transpire last night. So what was it that Michigan did to Washington that allowed them to just stifle Penix in this Washington offense?
Penix was just nowhere near as good. I mean, plain and simple, he had the best game of his life against Texas a week ago. I mean, he was every ball he threw, it was like handing off to a guy 40 yards down the field. I mean, he was playing lights out. I think, like you said, Michigan didn't sack him much, but they hit him early, brought pressure. And, Washington just realized early on, especially with a banged-up running back, they're not going to be able to run the ball with any success. They had to throw it 51 times. You're not going to win a game having to throw it 51 times and not being able to run. I mean, within a drive or two, I think I texted you the game. So, I mean, that's why Washington went for it on 4th and 7 down 2 touchdowns, because the game was over. Michigan was just dominating the line of scrimmage.
We were texting about that, and you
they
said
were just dominating the line of scrimmage. I go, 4th and 7. I get that, 90% of people would say punt there, but DeBoer was watching what I was watching, I was like, look, we're not going to be able to stop them running the ball. We get the ball at halftime. If we can somehow have this to 7, which they did somehow by the grace of God, because Michigan went for it on 4th and 3 and didn't get it. And I don't know what that play call was either, because DeBoer called timeout, and I was like, oh, no, now Michigan's going to go for it. This is absolute worst case. And I thought Michigan probably had like a best 2-point conversion play they're going to run there, right? It's 4th and 3. And they threw an, to the boundary, just out route, probably 25-yard pass to get 4 yards, and the Washington corner made a nice play to break it up. And it was weird when McCarthy went to the sideline. I don't know if he checked to something or if that look they wanted. Maybe they had 2 plays called and run whatever. But because the offensive coordinator and Harbaugh were not like super happy with him after that play.
He was pointing to the play
at
sheet,
it. Yeah, like
what were you doing?
Yeah. So I don't think that was actually the play. I couldn't imagine you're going to go back out there and just throw an out route and hope you get it. I agreed with Michigan kind of going for it there, too, only because they were so dominant that if they do get that and they go up 21-0, you can just put the game to bed right there.
They went for the kill shot.
Yeah,
they
went for the kill shot. Don't disagree with it. And then Washington, credit to them, got down there somehow and then scored on like a 4th and 5, whatever. Penix made a good throw on that play. But even on the 4th and 7, when you talk about that they don't get, he had a guy wide open.
It was wide open.
Game, he would have hit him, and then, he would have scored. So, yeah, Washington was just outmanned. I mean, Michigan was way too physical for him, dominated both lines of scrimmage. I mean, there's just not a lot Washington could do except try to throw the ball up to the receivers to make plays, and they tried that a little bit, but Penix did not have his A game yesterday at all. So.
They had, in the Texas game, I believe it was 8 plays through the air of 20-plus yards. Last night against Michigan, it was 1, and the only play it happened on was when they were down 14 late in the game, and basically Michigan just busted a coverage. It was when Washington got down close to the red zone, and then eventually Penix threw a pick on 4th and 17. Okay. But that play before it, if you remember, there was a busted coverage. Michigan had to kind of tackle him from behind on the 25-yard line. That was the only play that went for over 20 yards.
The play of the game was actually the complete, when Washington was down 7, got the ball back. They match field goals in the 3rd, and they're down 7. He hits that guy on kind of a little,
the holding call.
Out and up. He hits him for, 40 yards in the holding call. It was a blatant hold. But as we know in college football, sometimes you don't get that flag.
Right.
So, it was one of those deals where it's like, I think, too, that, the official, it almost looked like a late flag because the official clearly saw him being held and then realized it's going to be a 50-yard play. I was like, okay, I have to throw a holding flag there. He was losing his footing a little bit there. Right. But, it was the reason he didn't hit Penix is because he got held.
That's exactly it. See, I think that's what the official saw. He saw the guy going down and was like, oh, shoot, if I don't throw this, or if he doesn't hold him there, it's a sack. And instead, they get 50 yards. And I was like, shit, I got to throw this.
That play, though, like I said, sometimes they don't throw holding calls. And in college football, in the NFL, that's going to get thrown 100 out of 100 times. Both teams are getting, Michigan opened up the holes they did. Sure, they were controlling the line of scrimmage. People were complaining online they're holding. It was like, so is Washington.
Yeah, they're both holding.
Both teams were because they're not throwing holding flags. So,
and you look at it this way, too. You could say, okay, at the end of the first half, and I think I texted you this. At the end of the first half, Washington had a 3rd and 10, where it was a PI was called and an incomplete pass from Michigan. And then on the 4th down where Michigan scored, had they not scored, there was a holding call in the end zone there. Now, both of them were correct. They were both PI and defensive holding. However, Washington's cornerbacks were doing the same thing to Michigan the whole game, and that wasn't called. So it's the same type of deal there. It just isn't as big of a play where you're like, oh, my God, they took back a 50-yard gain for that call. Well, you look back, if they don't call the PI on Michigan right there, now Washington kicks a field goal. It would have been 4th and 10, and now it's 17-6 at halftime, and it's a totally different ball game. So, it just, to me, I do think the officials did a good job in the sense that they really didn't determine the outcome of the game. There was basically those 2 calls on Michigan at the end of the half, and there was the holding call on Washington. With the exception of those 2 calls, nothing else was really called besides pre-snap penalties that were false starts. So, to me, I actually thought, and when I heard it wasn't this ACC crew, actually, shockingly enough, this ACC crew is the highest, throws the highest rate of penalties of any crew in the entire country in the Power 5 conferences, and they actually did a good job. I think they were probably told, hey, you're calling this game. We don't want to see 25 penalties in the game.
Yeah.
So, and nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see a hold on every play. So I understand the way
the other thing I will say about officiating, in a sense, that drives me crazy is I think it was later in the fourth when Washington was down 14 trying to go score. And they had that, I think you may have mentioned it right now, or I don't know what exact call we were talking about, but if a hold, this has always bothered me in football. So there's offsetting penalties, right?
Right.
But if there's a hold in the backfield that keeps your quarterback from not getting leveled, and then he throws the ball down the field and gets PI, how do you get to do it over again?
It's unbelievable.
The holding took place first, and it's the only reason he got to throw the ball.
I agree.
That's crazy to me, that football does that, because it's like, at that point, you just might as well do everything you can to draw a penalty or keep the play alive. But as soon as someone holds to save the quarterback from getting sacked, that play should be, voided in a sense, because you shouldn't be able to get PI after that and get another chance at the down. That's bizarre to me.
It's kind of similar to the sense of, if you call, it's weird that they do that, because if they call a defensive hold on a 3rd and 15, they automatically give you a first down, right? So they're assuming that the play would have been a first down or a catch, right? You're preventing the first down, but they don't assume that the hold would have prevented the PI, right? It's contradictory in its own right. I totally agree.
I've always thought that was so weird. It's like, why should they get another chance at the play if the hold took place before the pass interference?
No, I totally agree. And that was honestly, if Washington ends up picking up that first down because they got a second shot at 4th down, they score there, all of a sudden it's a 7-point game, and that hold saves the game. Obviously the Michigan corner, it was a clear PI, but I totally agree. I was sitting there thinking the same thing. I was like, man, that sucks so bad, because that should have been a sack and the play should have been over, and now there's a penalty on Michigan for the PI on a throw that never should have happened. They get to do it over. Luckily, on the next play, Penix threw an interception. And look, here's my issue with Michael Penix, and I've liked him really I liked him through his college career. I don't like that Washington had 9 guys, including Michael Penix, that were 6th-year seniors. I think that's ridiculous that you have guys who are 23 and 24 years old playing 6 years of football out there last night.
Alan Bowman's coming back next year. He's got to be 36.
He's an old man. He's a college football dad. But yeah, to me, I don't like that. But I did like Michael Penix, and my problem was when I watched the Washington game versus Oregon in the middle of the year objectively, with no really skin in the game, I didn't like what I saw from Michael Penix, and I didn't like what I saw from him the rest of the year. Now, after the Sugar Bowl, and rightfully so, he played fantastic. I literally was hearing rumblings that he was going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. And it absolutely baffles me, because he's not a very good pocket passer. And what we saw last night is we saw him go against an NFL-style defense, right? He has an offensive line that won the Joe Moore Award, the #1 offensive line in the country, right? So, has great protection, has 3 NFL wide receivers, and he looked like a JV-style quarterback out there. That's the truth of the matter. I mean, the first interception he threw was horrific, and it really, to me...
That was the one right coming out of halftime?
It was. It was the first play at halftime.
That really changed the game, because Washington had a little bit of momentum, and they went down and scored.
Exactly, and he did exactly what I said he does. When any type of pressure comes, he just throws it up. He doesn't think. He just throws it up, and he threw up a dangerous ball. There was 3 or 4 more passes he threw last night that were very close to being intercepted as well. He could have had more than 2 or 3 interceptions. He was actually lucky to only have 2. The second one was really bad, too. I know it was a 4th and 15, but if you watch the play, he had Polk on the left side on an in route, wide open for a first down. Michigan was completely busted on the inside, and he throws it into quadruple coverage on the other side.
Oh, I remember seeing the highlight of that one.
Yeah, and he overthrows the under route, and he underthrows the over route, so there's just no possible way it's being caught. And I just don't see it with Michael Penix. I think, he's an excellent college quarterback. He had a fantastic career. What do you think? Do you think he's a guy who can play at the next level? And when I say the next level, I guess I mean, can he be a starter in the NFL at some point in his career, or is he just a career backup / maybe gets out of the league soon?
I don't know. It's a tough one for me. I don't necessarily think he's going to ever be a, star in the NFL, but I think maybe he can hang around for a few years. Like you said, I know you're saying a starter. I don't know. I would say the jury's still out for me on that. I don't love him either, probably because he's a lefty. But wait, he is left-handed.
Yeah.
Isn't he? Yeah. was about to say, he looks weird throwing out there. He's got to be left-handed. He doesn't move. He throws a nice ball. The other thing with him, too, is, and I'm sure this is on his draft deal, he throws everything off his back foot, flat-footed.
Yep, absolutely.
So he does kind of throw like a nice ball, like a laser, and he can throw with some decent touch, but I think he really doesn't like getting hit. Like you said, he plays behind a good offensive line, and then he throws everything off his back foot, which just won't work in the NFL. So.
You saw him literally ducking out of hits last night to avoid getting hit.
And then he was holding, when he was, walking on the field. I don't know if it was loser's limp.
I'm so annoyed.
I don't know if it was loser's limp. I don't know what it was, but it looked to me, now, not early on, but maybe like in the last drive or two in the fourth quarter, he got hit once, and, something actually may have happened. But for, 90% of the game, he was fine. So I'm not giving him that excuse. I'm just saying in general.
Let me say this, okay? Because I watched this happen, and I was yelling at the TV last night with my dad. We were laughing about it, okay? On the second to last drive for Washington, when the game was not over, and there was a still chance that he could become the hero and go down and lead them down and win the game, he did not wince in pain one time. On that final drive, that final throw, not wincing in pain on the interception. I watched the interception back because my dad was like, no, he got leveled on the return. He didn't. The guy who got leveled was Dylan Johnson trying to make a play. Michael Penix wasn't touched on the interception return. So he wasn't touched on the interception return. He wasn't injured before that. And then all of a sudden he comes out of that drive before a play had even happened, grabbing his chest and his ribs like he was injured. It was the most irritating thing to me. Patrick Mahomes does this shit all the time, dude. It's like immediately when something goes bad or like there's a minor little hit, let me just exaggerate it so it looks like I'm injured. It was loser's limp. I can't stand when quarterbacks or NFL players do that. Like, did you see here's the thing. A real injured guy, a guy who's actually injured, isn't going to act like that. Look at Dylan Johnson. The dude was playing at like 50%. He never was like grabbing at his knee and trying to like exaggerate the limp. When he walked off the field with the camera, he's literally walking there like knowing the camera's there, just grabbing his chest like, oh my God, I'm so injured. I'm like, dude, get the fuck out of here, bro. Like, okay, you lost the game. You didn't play that well. Like, just take it on the chin. That's way more respectable to me than going out there and acting like you're fucking injured. Okay, he did not. Now, if I saw like him take this massive shot, it'd be one thing, but he didn't. He started acting like that before any big hit. I was so irritated by it.
I'm sure you and your dad were going crazy in there.
Well, no, my dad was actually the whole time yelling about how J.J. McCarthy had the worst performance as a quarterback ever because he picked Washington to win, so he didn't like that he got it wrong. And even though he did want Michigan to win, so he was in there like.
First of all, he'll twist it. He didn't get it wrong. He'll be in here to defend himself later, I'm sure.
We did a little quick extra yesterday when I came in to do an NFL.
Oh, yeah.
We did a quick little preview. And he went on and he said, I'm picking Washington. Then he changed and said Michigan was going to win by double digits. Then he flipped back to Washington.
It's called hedging your bets.
That's right.
You pick everybody at least two times, and you can't be wrong.
Well, he did end up finishing. He finished with Washington by I think it was by 10, and didn't get it right.
My favorite too is when you try to get like an official pick out of him. Who's gonna win? Well, it's gonna be tight. But I guess I'll say the Cowboys. But the Redskins might win. They might win.
And he's like, "Let me watch the first quarter. I'll tell you after that."
Sorry, the Commanders.
Excuse
me.
Okay, real quick.
Another thing. One other thing, and you may be bringing this up on your list, but you brought up a good point. It would have been interesting to see Texas and Michigan matched up.
I think that would have been a better game.
I'm not a Texas homer by any stretch of the imagination, but Texas is pretty darn solid against the run, and Texas can, stop the run better than Washington. So I actually think that would have been a better matchup.
It would have been.
All the credit in the world to Washington for beating Texas. They deserved to win that game.
They did.
It was only because, the running back went down and gave Texas a chance at the end there. But Penix played the game of his life, and that happens in sports. When you're not playing a series and it's one game, someone has the game of his life and beat you. So all the credit to them, but it would have been fun to see. I think Michigan versus Texas would have been a better matchup,
I think it would have been more like the Alabama game or the Washington-Texas game where it came down to the last couple plays of the game if it was those two. I still think, and we said this all year, we both said Michigan was the best team from the start of the year. And it is nice to see in sports sometimes when you get the best team winning the championship because it doesn't always happen, especially in football, like you said, where there's not a series because you look at the other three teams in the playoff, all of them had blemishes. Like, there was multiple games Washington should have lost, even though they went undefeated. Texas lost to Oklahoma. They didn't look great in a couple games against Kansas State and Houston. And then same thing for Alabama. Alabama loses to Texas early. Should have lost to Auburn late in the year on a miracle wins on that Hail Mary.
I mean, same thing for Washington. They don't get a pick six against Arizona State.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like they could have lost to Stanford. They could have lost to Washington State.
They don't get the 4th and 1 against Washington State. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen.
Right.
Yep.
So it is refreshing to see that. And then last thing I'll say real quick is it is also refreshing to see the way this played out for Michigan. When Jim Harbaugh took over at Michigan, his first 6 seasons, he was 49-22. He started 0-5 against Ohio State. A lot of time in sports, we live in a world where everybody wants to fire everybody in 5 minutes and try something new. And I think it was beneficiary to Harbaugh that he's a Michigan man, and they weren't going to just get rid of him anytime quickly, right? But it is nice to see in a world of immediacy where, and I'm guilty of it as well, but every fan watches and every little moment in coaching decision is criticized and analyzed, and we all call for a fire because we want our team to win now. But Michigan stayed the course, and despite a really rough start, you could see there was improvements being made, and Michigan hadn't been good for a long time. They stuck with Harbaugh, and then, after that COVID season, he takes a big pay cut on his contract. He brings in some new young coordinators. I thought Jesse Minter, who's the defensive coordinator, I believe, for Vanderbilt, who's Bailey, our producer's favorite team, he was, in my opinion, the best part of what we saw over the course of the season. He did an outstanding job. Harbaugh even mentioned it. Harbaugh didn't even mention Sharon Moore yesterday in his press conference. He talked about how good Jesse Minter was, because he was. The guy was absolutely outstanding. He's going to be a head coach next year, I'm sure. But, he just...
Maybe at Michigan.
Maybe at Michigan. He shook things up. He laid out this blueprint for his team of getting to this point, and he executed it. It's just refreshing to see. Since then, right, since that year, he went 3-0 against Ohio State. They went to 3 consecutive college football playoffs. They won the Big Ten all 3 times, and they now cap it off with a national title.
Credit to them for keeping him. It's funny how things work out when, you give it a little bit of time. I will say that if he did not beat Ohio State 3 years ago and lost 4 in a row, I actually think he would have been fired.
Probably.
So it's cool that he at least, they gave him that extra year, he got it done, and then, yeah, apparently I think McCarthy said that, they didn't beat Ohio State because Ohio State was the one stealing the signs back then. And then so the only reason
taste of their own medicine.
That's what they said. The only reason Michigan did it is because they had to get on the same playing level. That's right. I mean, it literally, he said something like that. And I was like, okay, well, it's one way to justify it.
That's interesting to say from what Jim Harbaugh said was the best quarterback to ever play at Michigan. Do you think that's true, by the way? You think
no, fucking Chad Henne.
Chad Henne, baby.
Million.
Chad Henne.
Chad Henne.
Real quick, just because we're going to...
Alamo Bowl champion. Actually, I don't even know if they won that year. He did come to the Alamo Bowl, though.
That's good knowledge. I wouldn't have known that.
Chad Henne.
Real quick, SVP, and I mentioned this to you guys in post, or before we started shooting, SVP had Harbaugh on last night, and basically, SVP didn't even ask him if he was leaving, but Harbaugh had some interesting comments. He said, normally we have spring practice starting on Valentine's Day in February, but this year I'm going to push it back a month. We're going to start it in March. I thought if they won the championship, there was a 100% chance he left. I thought if they lost, it was 50-50. But that was a really odd thing to say for Harbaugh, considering if I'm leaving, I'm probably not saying anything. I think I know where you stand on this, but do you think he's gone? Is he leaving?
100%.
He's gone.
He's gone to the Chargers, I think.
He's a snake oil salesman?
If they give him that job, here's the reason why, especially, I believe. Because with the playoff expanding to 12 teams, it's going to be so much harder in reality to win the whole thing. You have another, 2 games you have to get through, and then so you're going to get another. You're always going to have Georgia and Alabama now, always. And then, maybe a Texas and Oklahoma in there from the SEC. Then, Washington and Oregon look, better and better. So I just think that it becomes harder. He's got to be tired. The recruiting,
yeah.
I know people that are in coaching, college coaching, they're like, the recruiting is just what's so brutal.
Right.
So to be able to win a national championship and ride off into the sunset from Michigan, you've fulfilled your prophecy to the university. In my opinion, it's a lose-lose for him to even stay because
right.
it's just, something can happen and be like, oh, yeah, we did win that championship, but we haven't won in 10 years. Like,
right.
Just leave, and someone's going to want him. I think it's going to be the Chargers.
I think everybody would want him.
Yeah, I think so too. But to me, the whole, we're going to move practice back and this and that and the other, it's just a negotiation chip. I think he wants around $12 million. That's kind of like the going rate for a good coach these days in the NFL,
Well,
which is kind of crazy.
Well, here's the thing.
I think he's going to get it.
Well, here's the thing. Michigan, about a week before this happened, they offered Harbaugh a 10-year, $125 million extension. So $12.5 million a year.
Did.
So I was looking at kind of salaries last year, and you're right. That's about the going rate. The highest paid, if you take out Bill Belichick, who's just got an absurd contract, Sean Payton's the next highest paid coach. He makes $18 million a year. And then, so really, here's the only reason, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but here's the only reason I think that there's a chance he stays. I completely agree. If I'm him, I'm leaving. It's just too much with recruiting. But here's the thing, right? He's the type of guy who rubs people the wrong way. This is like a known thing. That's why he got out in San Francisco. It's nothing to do with results, right? He did a great job there. And he just butted heads with the GM and the owner, and it ended up not ending well. If he thinks that, like, okay, at Michigan, I'm untouchable, right? I've already built this thing. I'm never getting fired now. I could be here. He's already 60 years old. So, how many more years is he coaching? 10, 15, maybe, right? Like, depending on how long he wants to go. So it's like, I think there is a part of me that thinks, well, he could just stay at Michigan, be the absolute god of that place. Like, he'll be remembered forever as a legend there, and they'll build a statue of him there. Literally, that's how they're going to feel about him. And so, to him, money doesn't matter. He played in the NFL for, 10-plus years. He's been a coach at a number of places. He took a damn pay cut at Michigan, 5 years ago. Money is irrelevant to him. So, to me, I just wonder, like, obviously the recruiting aspect of it and having to deal with the NCAA. If I'm him, I'm leaving. I'm 100%. I agree with you totally. I just think there is a part of me that thinks maybe somehow, I think everybody's saying he's definitely leaving, and I thought the same thing. I just don't know. I got a weird feeling last night.
I would say it's 80-20.
Okay.
I mean, there's a 20% chance he stays at Michigan if he wants to do that. If he only thinks he's going to coach 5 more years and he just wants to do that, fine. It's twice the work.
Right.
And I know he doesn't care about the money. I think he would go coach in the NFL for $10 million and lose out on $2 million because it's literally half the work. You go in, you go into the NFL on Tuesday, you do your walkthroughs, whatever you film, you play, and then you're off. A lot of times they have Saturday as an off day, and then you're off. If you play Sunday, usually Monday, Tuesday, then you show back to the facility on Wednesday. There's no recruiting. You're not talking to kids. You're not dealing with parents. It's just, hey, look, let's break down the film, what we're doing well, what we're not doing well. I just think that if he does want to coach, it's such an, it's as they say, a gravy train and biscuit wheels job. It's like you hire a good OC, or if you don't want to call the plays, and you're like, a lot of these NFL head coaches are like legitimate, like general managers in a sense, because most of them, a lot of them aren't calling either side of the ball. They're giving their final say. Some of them do, obviously.
In fact, I think the majority of the good ones don't call the plays anymore, with the exception of, like, Shanahan and McVay. Like, it doesn't the better coaches, I think.
Andy Reid, but I mean, I know. Yeah, so a lot of them don't. So it's like you're almost just managing a group of professionals that get paid millions of dollars. You're not dealing with parents. I just think that, especially with Herbert sitting there in L.A., and, dude, it's
great
really,
situation.
And it's not a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
The Chargers they never win the Super Bowl. No one expects them to win the Super Bowl. So it's like if you go to the playoffs and you're not going for 4th and 4s in your own half, like Brandon said, and being the talk of, media everywhere across the country, then I just think it's such an easier job. I expect him to leave. But like you said, I think there's a 20% chance he stays at Michigan. If he just wants to coach another – dude, he's 60 years old. I don't know how much longer he even wants to coach. Sometimes those guys at 60 are like, okay, like I don't even really want to even coach anymore. I'm tired.
Especially,
I've been doing football, playing and coaching for 40 years. So it's just like,
especially the fact that now he's got a national title, right? Like, he talked about it last night, how important it was. His dad won a national title at Western Kentucky. His brother obviously won a Super Bowl against him with the Ravens. His brother's got a chance to win another one here. So I think this meant a lot to him. Now you get that crowning achievement. I agree. I think, if he doesn't win here and he's chasing a championship or a Super Bowl, there's a chance he stays longer, but I totally agree.
I think he also wants to win a Super Bowl like his brother.
Yeah.
I think that also plays into it because he's
such
a competitive guy that I think he's like, hey, I'm not taking over a bullshit team here.
Right.
I have a top 5 quarterback in the league that I'm going into.
Right.
It's not like I'm, going to bring Colin Kaepernick back and start this thing from scratch. So, yeah.
Okay,
that's what I'd say.
real quick, before we move on to wild card games, give me Uncle T's way too early top 5 college football next year.
Oh, jeez.
Number 1 through number 5, if you can do it. Off the top of your head. I'm putting you on the spot here.
I'll put Georgia at 1.
Okay.
Is McCarthy gone? What's the deal with
They
him?
think he's going to the NFL, but I
don't know. With NIL, I bet he stays. That's one guy I would actually venture to say that he ends up staying. It depends what happens with Harbaugh.
I agree. If Harbaugh stays, then
So,
maybe. But
I'll do Georgia 1, Texas 2.
so far I have the exact same as you.
I know you're not a Milroe guy, but he's going to be at least a little bit better. I'll put Alabama at 3.
Okay. I don't have Alabama in my top 5.
Yeah, that's okay. They're just always there.
Yeah, they are.
Ohio State 4, and who do I want to put 5? I'm going to put Notre Dame at 5.
Okay, all right.
With what's his name? The quarterback from Duke.
Riley Leonard.
Yeah, because I think their receivers are so bad. They got some good transfers. I'll put them at 5. I don't know. They'll probably be a preseason top 10, but that'll be my top 5.
Okay, my top 5. I went Georgia 1, Texas 2 as well. I do think Quinn Ewers is going to come back, much to my dismay. I actually have a shocker here at 3. The best transfer class in the country. My boy Lane Kiffin, number 3, Ole Miss. I think they're actually going to make – I mean, that's not wild to say with a 12-team playoff, but I think they're going to the playoff next year, and I think they're actually going to make some noise. I put Oregon at 4 just because even though I'm not a big Dan Lanning guy, I do think he's built that program well. They did get Dylan Gabriel as a transfer, who I'm not super high on, but when you're losing Bo Nix, that's not the worst thing in the world, and when you put him in that offense, it's going to help. It's a lot of dink and dunk and short passes to athletes. And then 5, I'm going to put Michigan just because I think Michigan, if Harbaugh comes back, has a decent chance there. Really interesting, Texas plays Michigan the first week next year. College football, Texas will take on the Wolverines there in week 1. So preview of what could have been in the national title this year.
Who is it? The only thing I'll say about Ole Miss, I know they got a great transfer class, and I like the way Lane, I told you the other day, is the best play caller maybe any football for my money.
Yeah.
But they lost Judkins. He's leaving.
So here's the thing. Technically, he could go back.
Yeah. So
could be a negotiating tactic.
That's probably what it is. And if I were him, I would want to go back. But
I don't know why he'd leave.
I think he's just going to take the money somewhere and then go to the league. So
he might
be one of those.
He might.
But if I'm Ole Miss, and they definitely have the donors, I'm doing anything I can to keep him.
That's a weird.
That would make a big difference if he's there or not there. So.
That's a big loss if he doesn't come back.
If he is there, I could see them being top 5, top 7 team.
I think Ole Miss is on the uptick, and I wish Texas would go after Lane Kiffin, but I don't think Sark's going anywhere after this season. All right. Let's move on to some NFL. We've got 6 games on the docket for the NFL playoffs. And I guess we'll start with the NFC, and we'll start with my Dallas Cowboys, winners of the NFC East, 12-5, taking on the number 7 Green Bay Packers, sneaking into the playoffs at 9-8 with the final wild card spot in the NFC. Dallas opened a 7-point favorite. They've been bet up to 7.5 in most spots. Total on the game, 50.5, second highest total in the playoff for the round 1. The game's set to be kicked off at 3:30 Central Standard Time at AT&T Stadium, where the Cowboys will be playing their first home game since 2021, where they were upset by the San Francisco 49ers. They're looking for their first home playoff win since 2018, where they beat the Seattle Seahawks back when Russell Wilson was the quarterback with Pete Carroll. They won 24-22 in that matchup. Dallas comes into this game with a very weird end of the season, right? It looked like they were playing their best football of the season after beating the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 14. Jerry Jones called it the biggest win in the McCarthy era after they won 33-13 over Jalen Hurts and company. But following that game, we had some setbacks. The offense didn't look great. They struggled back-to-back games, putting up just 10 points in Buffalo and 20 in Miami, losing both games on the road where they've struggled all year. They bounce back with that controversial win over Detroit in Week 17, and then they take care of business Week 18. They got some help along the way with Philadelphia losing a couple games, and lo and behold, what looked like a Dallas team destined to go on the road and lose early in the playoffs now gets to host a playoff game where they are 8-0. On the other side, we have the Green Bay Packers coming in on a 3-game winning streak. They've had a weird finish to their season in their own right. They get a 17-9 win over the Chicago Bears in the final game of the season to clinch a playoff spot. The first 9 games of the season, the Packers started 3-6. In those games, Jordan Love threw 14 touchdowns and 10 picks. The last 8 games, Love 18 touchdowns and 1 pick, and the Packers are 6-2, finishing the season on a heck of a run. They did have a weird little spot in between there where they had losses to the New York Giants and at home to the Tampa Bay Bucs, where they lost to Baker Mayfield, who put up a perfect passer rating in that game. So what do you think the Cowboys should do to slow down Love? Do you think there's anything special they need to do defensively, or is Dallas good enough to just play a solid game that they normally do, rush forward without bringing a lot of pressure, and they'll be able to hold up in the secondary?
Well, first of all, what's wrong with Gilmore? Is he out?
I believe he's going to play. I think he's okay.
Okay, because I remember him, the last thing I remember about the Cowboys game is him just holding his arm, walking out the field.
Let me clarify that, but I believe he's. I'm pretty sure he's okay.
So that definitely matters. But if he does play, I expect the Cowboys. I think Dan Quinn's going to keep it very vanilla and boring. I think he's going to bring 4 guys pretty much the whole game, and I think the Cowboys are just good enough to beat the Packers at home. I mean, Packers are playing. Jordan Love's playing good football, but they don't have. Although Reed's done a good job, and some of their young guys have done a good job, they don't really have that one, just number one dominant receiver, you have to worry about.
Yep.
So you can pretty much, with the corners Dallas have, with Bland and Gilmore, they should be able to play a lot of man, maybe a little help over the top, and I think the Cowboys will be just fine. I think it's going to be relatively close. I think the Cowboys win by, 7, a touchdown, something like that. Whatever, and I think that's what you said the line was. So, it'll be somewhere right around there would be my guess. I think if LaFleur was smart, he would just run the ball with Aaron Jones 35 times.
And so, unfortunately...
and then just go play action and, try to... Because, Love has been having a good, second half of the season. But, dude, look, I mean, he's technically... No, he's not a rookie, but this is technically his first year really starting, obviously. Yep. And a road playoff game. The Packers will show up. It'll be 30% Packers fans, probably. The Packers fans will show up. So, but it's just a road playoff game against a good defense to a Cowboys team that hadn't lost at home. I don't see him coming here and winning the game, but that would be my game plan. After watching what Buffalo did to the Cowboys, and, typically, I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but LaFleur likes to throw it.
Yep.
So if he would just break that trend and hand it off like the Bills did to Cook 30 times in the game, I think that gives them a better chance to win.
100%. And to your point, Aaron Jones is healthy for the first time all year, at least 100% healthy. The last 3 weeks, he's gone over 100 yards in all 3 games. He's averaging 120 yards and 6 yards per carry in those 3 games. Of course, he has 0 touchdowns in those 3 games because he's secretly sleeping with Matt LaFleur's wife. And that's why Matt LaFleur makes sure to vulture.
You said that early in the year.
That's right. It's a true statement. I mean, there's no other logical explanation for why he always pulls him out on the 1-yard line and lets A.J. Dillon or Jordan Love vulture his touchdowns. But there's something he has against Aaron Jones, and I have a feeling it's one of those, like you said, the Steve Nash situation where the kid came out a different color, and we didn't really know how that happened there. But I'm assuming there's something going on there. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But like you said, Dallas 8-0 at home, Green Bay 4-5 on the road. My concern for this Green Bay team, and I as a Cowboys fan, I can't help but be nervous because they just choke in these spots all the fucking time. The Cowboys. But you look at Green Bay's defense. They're horrific. They're 23rd in EPA per play, 26th in success rate defense. I mean, they're bottom half of the league in yards per play, yards per pass, yards per rush.
All over them.
They are.
Yeah.
And the secondary's been atrocious. I mean, to me, you look at the Cowboys offense. Yeah, they haven't been great as of late, but they're still the number 2 rated offense efficiency-wise in the league, number 2 in pretty much every single metric. I just pray Rico Dowdle doesn't get more than 5 fucking snaps in this game or I'm going to throw up. But Rico's just the worst. Rico fucking Dowdle, man. But on paper, this game should not be close. Dallas should win it relatively easily, like you said. I'm going to need you to sit in your chair Sunday afternoon if this game gets close, Turner, because you were undefeated when you sit in my dad's chair.
Any team called the Cowboys. Wyoming Cowboys are Dallas Cowboys.
That's right. We're undefeated. So I'm going to need you to sit in that chair if this game gets tight. We're not going to mess around with this. I may just have you sit in it from the start. I don't want to go into halftime down and have to change.
We're going to have to ask Big Dog about that.
No, fuck Big Dog. If you tell him it's lucky, he'll let you sit in the chair. You know he will. If I say it, then he'll just tell me to go fuck myself. But if you tell him, he'll actually let you do it. One last little thing on this game. Key injuries for the Packers. And it looks like Stephon Gilmore is going to play. The MRI looked good, they said. But Christian Watson been dealing with a hamstring. He's been out for a couple weeks in a row. He's questionable. Romeo Doubs and A.J. Dillon, both questionable as well. Even if Watson does go, who's been their number 1 target, when healthy, He's not going to be 100%. He's been dealing with this hamstring, for his entire career pretty much. Jaden Reed also dealing with a rib
I feel like
injury.
they've been moving the ball better without Watson in there. He's been out a few weeks, and they've been putting up points.
They have, but I mean
I think
think
that Bears game,
they didn't move it that well.
Yeah,
but
I mean, that was a snooze fest of a game.
But
Fields was bad in that.
Yeah, he was horrible.
He got himself traded after that.
That was his. Yeah, it's over for him in Chicago. Let's move on to game 2. I think this might be the most compelling matchup of the NFC first round. It's the Detroit Lions, the number 3 seed in the NFC, the NFC North champion Detroit Lions for the first time since 1993, I believe. They are 12-5 coming into this game. They take on the number 6 Los Angeles Rams, who come in 10-7, and the Rams, possibly the hottest team in the NFL right now. The line on this one opened 3.5, shaded to the dog. Some places moving closer to 3. Highest total in all the games at 51.5, so expecting some points here. Game's going to be at Ford Field in Michigan. Luckily for noodle arm Jared Goff, this game's indoors because he cannot play in any sort of weather, but this indoor game will be interesting. Obviously, the storyline going in is Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford going against each other, right? McVay going against his old quarterback. The whole big trade they had where Stafford was shipped to L.A. and then ended up winning a Super Bowl. Obviously, though, this is not the same Rams team that we saw back with that Super Bowl run. That said, the Rams come into this matchup off a 4-game winning streak. They've won 7 of their last 8 games. In fact, the only loss they've had in the second half of the season came at Baltimore in a game where they were tied, went to overtime, and apparently what happened is in that game there was a punt return for a touchdown, and the officials decided, it's just rainy and cold, and we're tired of being out here, so we're going to let 19 holds go on the punt return and let Baltimore return it for a touchdown to win the game. Rams, that's the only loss they've had. Stafford's been great his last 7 games, 16 touchdowns, 4 picks, posted the second-best QBR in the NFL over that stretch. When you look at the Lions, their struggles are what the Rams do well, right? They've been really bad against the pass. They're 27th in pass yards allowed a game, 30th in passing yards per attempt, and 25th in both dropback EPA and success rate. My question to you is, do you think the Rams have enough offensive firepower to pull off this road upset, or do the Lions find a way to get their first playoff win in the last 32 years and just their second playoff win in franchise history?
Well, I think I always like to say WTW, which is will to win. I think that the Lions are just, this game means so much more to them. I don't know if that's necessarily going to play in their favor or not, but I think that they will be the team with the home crowd behind them that haven't really been in the, worth a shit in 30 years. So and you have the storyline of, that Jared Goff's going to hear all week from Dan Campbell. You weren't good enough. They traded you over here. You're a bum. This and that, the other. They didn't want you. They took our quarterback and sent you over here because, this and that and the other. And obviously it worked out for the Rams, right? Yeah. So, but Goff's been okay. He's got that offense is loaded. He does a good job of really managing the offense, and he hasn't, made too many mistakes this year. I do think that my gut feeling on it is the Rams are going to win. It's a full, to me, it's a full coin toss.
Yeah.
I literally think it could go either way. I do think that Detroit's going to have a really hard time stopping the Rams offense. So.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I feel the Rams could get a couple more stops. I don't know. I'm gonna say, I don't know if we're giving picks here, but I would say Rams by a field goal.
Oh, so you're actually gonna pick the Rams?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Rams. I don't know why, but I am. Detroit's Detroit. I just don't know.
No, I'm picking the Rams too.
Until they prove it. The Rams. It's just Puka and Kupp are so hard to cover, and it's just. Monroe St. Brown's a great player too. Speaking of, is Laporta okay? Didn't he go down? Because if he's not playing, they might be fucked.
So I don't. Again, it's gamesmanship because it looked to me really bad. I mean, he was able to get up and walk off the field, but then they got the cart and took him back to the locker room. They came out last night, and said, yeah, like he might play. There's some hope. There's some hope.
You can always put a questionable tag and not get in trouble.
But they're trying to even I think they're trying to leak things like, yeah, he might actually play. I'd be shocked. The knee looked bad.
If he got carted off, he still won't be effective. So yeah,
right.
I'm going to say that's a big point of emphasis for me too. Laporta's awesome when he's healthy. So yeah, I'll say Rams by a field goal.
That was a big mistake, I think. I know Dan Campbell had something to play for in that spot, but man, they lost him, and they also lost, I believe, Reynolds, their wide receiver, got injured as well.
So question, was the only way they could become the 2 seed is if the Cowboys lost in Washington?
Both the Cowboys and the Eagles had to lose.
That was stupid.
So
I would have just rested
If
everybody.
either of them won, then they would have gotten the 3 seed.
Question, though. So if because the Eagles obviously couldn't – got it.
Right.
So, okay.
So that's
so,
why.
yeah, I mean, literally –
It was like a 5% chance that was going to happen.
If I'm Dan Campbell, I just – yeah.
You also could have monitored the situation.
I know the way he is, but, yeah, once you see that, hey, look, the Cowboys are winning by 17 points. Get your starters out.
It's
I
just
don't know
so
why.
dumb.
You know, they look good that first half, right? Get them out. The game doesn't matter.
Look, I had Detroit -3 in that game because I knew Dan Campbell wasn't going to do that. I knew he was going to play his guys the whole game, and I'm glad that he did for that reason. But yeah, I'm gonna pick the Rams to win this game too. The one thing I will say that's going to be interesting to me is I feel like the Rams are definitely like a really good passing offense, and I think they're going to exploit the Lions' defense in that regard. But McVay and Shanahan have this notion that they're pass heavy, but they're both kind of based on the run.
Yeah.
And here's the key thing for me. Kyren Williams has gone over 100 yards in 5 of his last 7 games. He's rushed for over 1,100 yards and 15 total touchdowns on the year. He's 3rd in the league, actually, in rushing yards. The Lions actually have one of the best run defenses in football. They're like the 3rd best run defense in football.
Good against the run, yeah, bad against pass.
Right, so it's going to be interesting to see, like, does McVay commit to the run and just say, hey, we're going to establish the run to set up the pass like we normally do, or is he going to have a game plan where this is just a Matthew Stafford game and he thinks, okay, I can just throw all over them? That's going to be a fascinating matchup for me because I don't know how much success you're going to have on the ground against this Lions defense with how good they've been against the run.
I think he's going to stick with it at least early.
Yeah.
I think for the first half, you're going to see nothing change. And then, if they're down and, whatever, but that offense just kind of goes as far as, setting it up for those plays. Not that it necessarily needs to, but obviously they're setting up the pass with the runs, whatever. Right. And Kyren Williams has been good. If he can hold on to the damn ball. I forgot who we were watching him play against, and he fumbled like 3 times in the game.
Yep.
So I don't know if I don't watch the Rams play a ton. I don't know who that was against. I forgot, but it was like, I don't know if that's an ongoing problem or not.
He hadn't fumbled since that game. But yeah, I remember that. It was not good. My pick's going to be, I'm going to say Rams 28, Lions 24. Although I actually like the Rams overall better. I'm a Stafford fan and I'm not a Goff fan. However, I would be happy for the Lions if they won.
I would rather see the Lions win the game.
But it would be really interesting to see, assuming that the Cowboys don't blow it to the Packers, if the Rams do pull the upset off, they'll get San Francisco in that second round, and that would be a very fascinating matchup between McVay and Shanahan. Obviously, Shanahan has dominated that matchup in the regular season, but McVay got the best of him last time they met in the playoffs. All right, moving on now to the last game in the NFC. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the number 4 seed, who are 9-8, despite having a worse record than the 11-6 Philadelphia Eagles. The Bucs will host this game in Tampa Bay. The Eagles are a 3-point favorite, total on the game 44.5. The Eagles have looked like a shell of their Super Bowl contender team last year, where they made it all the way and barely lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. They've lost 5 of their last 6 games, including losses against Seattle, Arizona, and the New York Giants, all of which missed the playoffs, especially last week when it looked like, I understand the Eagles didn't have a huge incentive to play, but at the beginning of the game, they were trying to win, and it was 24-0 New York before Philadelphia decided to pull all their starters. Look, Jalen Hurts, y'all call him the Black Tom Brady, BTB. He's looked like the Black Sam Darnold, okay? He's looked like an absolute bum out there. They have him falling on fumbles in practice with a string on the ball, pulling it out to practice not losing the ball. He looks like the most inaccurate quarterback in football. 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in his last 5 games, and the Eagles are 1-4 in those starts. There are cries in Philadelphia for Nick Sirianni's job at this point, which is crazy.
Fucking Philadelphia.
Literally, I'm not even kidding, dude. I heard Joe Fortenbaum and
is that like some Philadelphia host or something?
No. Fortenbaum is on ESPN. He does the ESPN bet thing, but he's got Joe versus Carlin or whatever, and basically they were both saying like if the Eagles were to lose to Tampa Bay, they might fire Sirianni. Like it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'd be shocked.
It's not gonna happen.
But the Bucs, on the other hand, they've had a really weird year because it looked in the middle of the season, or not the middle, but towards the end, weeks 13 through 16, they won 4 straight games, right? Baker Mayfield looked really, really good. Obviously, we mentioned he had a perfect passer rating against Green Bay over there at Lambeau Field, and they won the game by double digits. But the past 2 weeks have been really tough. The Bucs were nearly shut out at home against New Orleans. They scored 2 touchdowns late when they were already down 24 or 23-0. They lose that game, and then they're in a must-win last week against the Carolina Panthers. They don't score an offensive touchdown. They win it with 3 field goals, 9-0. Their defense held up. But, we know the Eagles' defense has been bad this season. But with how the Buccaneers have looked offensively the past few weeks and Baker Mayfield not looking that great, the offensive line not protecting, are the Tampa Bay Bucs going to be able to exploit the Eagles' secondary the way a lot of these teams late in the season have?
Yeah, I think so. I think Goodwin and Evans will be fine. I don't know is A.J. Brown playing?
I don't think so, but they said he's questionable.
Because he went down, right?
It looked like a torn ACL, but he is questionable apparently.
Okay. Keep it somewhat short and sweet here. I think the Bucs are going to win the game. I don't know what's going on in Philadelphia. Sirianni's not going anywhere. But to me, weirdly enough, and, we joke around and say Black Tom Brady because your dad loves Jalen Hurts, but it looks like that team is like borderline giving up on Jalen Hurts all of a sudden. It's very strange.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what, you never know what happens behind closed doors or whatever, and I also think it's kind of being led by fucking A.J. Brown, like, your diva receiver.
It is.
Oh, man, someone should be able to get me the ball, this and that and the other, just being a diva receiver like all the best ones are. I'm always open, the Jamar Chase. Throw me the damn ball.
Yeah.
But I think for whatever reason, man, and I don't even look too far into last week's game. I really don't, because it's so hard in the NFL when you have the Giants. There's probably a couple guys out there playing for incentives, and they've had just a dog shit year, and they're like, we just want to beat the hell out of the Eagles. And the Eagles know the Cowboys are going to beat the Commanders.
Yep.
So you're out there sleepwalking, and then you lose A.J. Brown because you're out there playing. It just smells like a disaster in Philadelphia. I'm going to say the Bucs win this game by 7 points.
Man, that's an interesting pick. I want to tell you. They just look
like they've given up on the season.
No,
I don't know what it is.
You are totally right, and I'm going to be pulling for the Bucs 100%. I really want to pick the Bucs here too. You've kind of almost convinced me in this take, because I was going to pick the Eagles for sure, just because I just think, I don't know why, but I just think that the way Tampa's looked the last couple weeks, I don't trust Baker Mayfield. But
neither do I.
Right. But that said, I will say you are right. It looks like that team has given up. I mean, the loss last week, like you said, okay, chalk it up to last game of the season. They know the Cowboys are probably not losing to the Commanders. So it's like, what incentive do we have here? But I just thought that the Eagles, looking at that game, was like, okay, we've played so bad as of late. We need to go into the playoffs on a positive note. And they just looked as bad as they could have. So that was a bad sign. Then the worst sign to me was the Cardinals game. They were up 14-3 in that game after a Kyler Murray pick 6 in the second quarter. I don't know how they found a way to lose that game to a Cardinals team that finished with 4 wins. And not only that, the Cardinals secondary is one of the worst in the league, and they could not throw the ball efficiently in the game. I don't know what has happened in Philadelphia in terms of the defense this year, because it's not like there was huge losses. There was a few losses, but it wasn't like the entirety of the roster or half the roster was gone. The offense doesn't surprise me as much, because I've been saying this. You've heard me say this for 3 years. I think Jalen Hurts is a fraud. I've been saying it for a long time. I will say, you have to give me this. I might be a hater on some things, but I don't, on my takes, no matter how good a quarterback's playing, if I don't like them, I continue to say they're bad. And if I think a quarterback's good, I'll continue to say they're good.
Yeah, no, you've always disliked Jalen Hurts. And I mean, here's the thing. Full disclosure here. And we joke, when Big Dog's on here, because he's a Jags guy and whatever. But it's like, I actually think, Trevor Lawrence can stand in the pocket when he is healthy and throw. He does some bonehead things. But when it comes to actually throwing the ball, down the field, Hurts throws go ball, and that's about it. Also with him, too, that I didn't get to when we were talking about, and I'm not making excuses for him because I really don't think he's that good. I'm in the same boat as you. I don't think he's as bad as you think, but I certainly don't agree with Big Dog.
Yeah.
But if you watch him, when he takes off running, not throwing,
right,
there's been something wrong with his leg all year.
I agree.
Like, to the sensor, it's like he's not trying to run. Not that he should be doing it, but I mean, I'm telling you, like, when he gets up, you know, and I don't know what it is, obviously. Not a medical professional here, but there's something wrong with his leg.
Yeah.
So, to me, he just hasn't looked nearly as explosive running the ball. I think he's been less likely later in the year to take off and run as well, and he's trying to be this pocket passer. But, yeah, man, when you have, you know, receivers voicing their opinions about a franchise quarterback, you know, their franchise quarterback, who did obviously, you know, he made a couple big mistakes, but played a pretty good Super Bowl last year. And, you know, if you have A.J. Brown having these good years and he's still bitching about it,
yeah,
they're usually where there's, you know, smoke, there's fire, and there's something going on in Philadelphia.
I
agree. Have your franchise quarterback diving on balls at practice, like almost embarrassing him. And then you come out with the effort lately, and now A.J. Brown's probably hurt. I just don't think that team believes at this point they can get back to the Super Bowl, and they're just not playing hard. And I don't like the Bucs. I'll get that. Tell you, I don't like the Bucs at all. I just think the Bucs are going to come out and play very hard at home. And like you said, it's all about that Eagles secondary that's bad. Mike Evans and Godwin, although Baker Mayfield's not great, those guys can tear up a bad secondary.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking. And like I said, I mean, it really is a coin toss game. If the Eagles get back to, you know, the way they were playing someone early in the year, they'll win the game. I just don't think they're going to get there.
I actually think the game comes down to one thing, and that's, can the Buccaneers protect Baker? Because that's the one thing that I've noticed the last couple weeks is I know Baker's not played as well, but pressure's been getting to him a lot. When pressure gets to a short quarterback who's not very talented and is prone to making mistakes, it's usually not a good sign for the Bucs. But that said, you've convinced me. It wasn't hard. Well, it wasn't hard because I hate the Eagles. I just needed an excuse. I just was thinking, you know, the Eagles will turn it on in the playoffs. But you know what? I think you're right. I think they've given up on the season, and I think Sirianni's lost the locker room because that whole act of like yelling at other players and yelling at the crowd and, you know, being that type of, when it's kind of like the Belichick thing. When it's not working, it doesn't look very good, and it's not. If you noticed, I saw this a couple weeks ago. It was in the game they actually won against the Giants. He was screaming at a couple players on the sideline when they were like losing the game, or when they were blowing the lead against New York on Christmas. And it was just, it looked like obviously we don't know what they're saying, and it's not, I'm not comparing it, but it looked like, you know, we're watching ICC and Jason Brown and things aren't going well on the sideline. And he's like, you punk-ass motherfucker, you a punk-ass bitch. That's what it looked like. And the players are fighting back. Look at this motherfucker talking to me. That's what it sounded like. To me, I was like picturing in my head Jason Brown and like Carlos Thompson yelling back at each other, you know, go fuck yourself the whole time. So, and then after the game when they won, you could see Sirianni over there trying to like make amends with the guy. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if Sirianni's kind of lost the locker room there too, which may be why we're getting reports of people saying, you know, he could get fired. I don't think that should happen.
Another thing I'll bring up is, I forgot about this. They've only won one game since Big Sal's been off the sidelines for touching that player, whatever the fuck his name is. That big Italian goon.
Yeah.
The head of security, I don't know, Sal something, I think, or say it was like something like that.
No, it's Dom, isn't it?
Dom. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Maybe his last name is, I don't know.
Dom DeSandro.
Yeah. That's where he's getting. That's DeSandro. But yeah, they've only won one game since Dom's been off the sidelines. You know, he's the heart and soul of that team. But the funniest thing about that shit was after he did that, his title was like strictly security. And then I guess they figured since they weren't going to let him back on the field, like Howie Roseman or someone made him like special advisor to the general manager.
So he's in the box now.
Security / special advisor to the. So yeah,
he's like
a
folk legend.
Box.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, look, if you're in there touching other players on the sideline, you don't deserve to be down there. But that is pretty funny, and they do love him in Philadelphia. Let's switch over to the AFC real quick, and we'll start with the first Saturday game matchup, which is a game we discussed off air on Sunday together. Where the number 5 Cleveland Browns 11-6 take on the number 4 Houston Texans 10-7. Again, similar to the NFC, we have the same type of deal where the number 4 seed actually has the worst record, but they're hosting the playoff game because they won their division. This game is going to be kicked off at 3:30 Central Standard Time at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas on NBC. It's the first playoff game that will happen. The Browns opened as a 1.5-point favorite, which we were discussing. You thought it was going to be closer to that, and now it's been bet up to where I thought it might end up, which is 3. We'll see where that number goes. If it gets through a key number, that's a good sign that the Browns have a lot of it's a good chance the Browns are going to win the game if that goes through that key number of 3 to 3.5.
I think it's going to stay at 3. But
probably so, because I think there would be buyback on the Texans at 3.5. But total on the game, 44.5. Browns, with just their third playoff appearance in the past 23 seasons, they actually did win a playoff game back in 2020. I looked this up. I was shocked. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers back in 2020 by 11 in the playoffs. Cleveland finished second in the AFC North behind the number 1 seed Baltimore Ravens. The Texans, on the other hand, looking for their first playoff win since the 2019 season, where they defeated the Buffalo Bills in overtime, a game started by none other than Cleveland quarterback Deshaun Watson, who's obviously not starting in this game. The guy who is starting in this game is old man Joe Flacco. You know, he's having his swan song, right? His last ride here. Nobody expected this to happen. He said he was about to give up on the NFL when he got signed to the Browns late in the year, and we know he's had a resurgence. 4-1 as a starter since taking over for the Browns. He led the league in touchdown passes in the last 4 games he started with 13. He has turned the ball over a little bit, but, you know, Cleveland's looked like a really good team, and with that defense, you know, they're the number 1 defense in the league in a lot of different metrics. The Texans, on the other hand, the surprise team of the NFL. DeMeco Ryans done an excellent job. They're just the 5th team in NFL history with a rookie coach and a rookie quarterback to make the playoffs. The last time it happened was Andrew Luck and Chuck Pagano back in 2012. So we know this Texas team is very banged up, right? I think that's going to be a big factor. I think that's where we should start here. Wide receivers Noah Brown and Robert Woods both missed the game, which was a winner-go-home against the Colts last week. Will Anderson, their star rookie defensive end, was limited. He was basically only inserted as a pass rusher in the game, played about 50% of the snaps. We also know their other defensive end, Jonathan Grenard, missed the Colts game as well. So they're banged up, right? So, Uncle T, what is the most important factor in this game? Is it the Texans' offense having to find success against an elite Browns defense? Or is it Joe Flacco continuing his stellar play? Or is it even the Texans' injury concerns going into this big game?
I think it's probably the injury concerns. They have a lot of people out, and like you said, Will Anderson hasn't been himself like the last few weeks anyway. I think the Browns are going to win this game by. I think you think they're going to win by more. I think they're going to win this game by like 3. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I think the Browns defense, which is the better defense, obviously, will probably make a play or 2 more, and Stroud might throw an interception. Like I said, if the Texans did have Tank Dell and Collins healthy and Will Anderson healthy, I think this is a coin toss game if those guys are all healthy. But I think the Browns ultimately win the game by, I always say a field goal, but I'll say a field goal. I just don't see either team really just pulling away from each other in this. Mari Cooper rested up probably, so that's good for his health. They need him to have a big game. So I'll take old man Joe against the rookie, and I'll say Browns by a field goal. But I'm going to be rooting for the Texans. Yeah, I know you're going to be rooting for the Texans. I'm rooting for the Browns. I like the Browns. I've kind of almost become a Browns fan. I really do. One other thing, too. I know you're a Browns fan. This is whoever wins this game gets Coach of the Year. If DeMeco Ryans wins or Stefanski, whoever wins this game will get Coach of the Year. I agree, and I think Kevin Stefanski is my Coach of the Year, and I think he's going to win this game. But, yeah, you're probably right. If DeMeco Ryans were to win this game, he probably would. You're right. I agree. But when we look at this game, here's my thing on it. I have my own power rankings for my betting, and I make Cleveland on a neutral field if both teams are completely healthy in their current states. I make Cleveland about a 4.5 point favorite on a neutral field when healthy. So you move it to Houston, home field for Houston. We're pretty close to the number with the home field advantage of where we're at 3. My feeling just is with all the injuries for Houston, that number comes down. To me, if you can get the Browns, and I know we're not going to get too much into the betting this, but I said this to you, if I can get the Browns at anything below a field goal, I think there's value there. I think the Browns are going to win the game by a field goal or more. My issue with Houston is actually not their offense, although I think they're going to struggle to move the ball without healthy receivers against that Browns defense. They're the number 1 defense against the pass. The actual place that you attack the Browns defense to have success is on the ground, and Devin Singletary just hasn't been that great this year. They haven't run the ball all that well. Houston's defense, though, they're just not very good. They're 15th in yards per play, 15th in yards per game allowed, but they really struggle against the pass. They're 23rd in pass yards per game allowed, 27th in yards per pass allowed at 7 per game or 7 per pass. So
to me, it's like, okay, you have a team that's a little bit better against the run. They're terrible against the pass. But then you look at last week's game against the Colts in a must-win, and the current health that they're at, Jonathan Taylor went for 30 carries and 188 yards. They ran all over them, and they were pretty much one-dimensional, right? Like, Gardner Minshew wasn't going to beat you in that game. So, to me, I just don't see, like, it would just take a lot of things to go right for the Texans to win this game, right? Like, they would have to play a really good defensive game. Flacco would probably have to turn the ball over multiple times, and the Texans would have to find some way to get their ground game going. The problem with it is, too, and I don't want to spend too much time on this game because I want to move on, but you look at the Browns' defense against the run, I just don't see a path for Houston getting stops. And you look at it, late season buys for teams prove to be very beneficial. The Browns essentially got a bye last week, right? They didn't play any of their guys. They were locked into the 5th seed, where the Texans, who were already banged up, had to play a full 60-minute, essentially playoff game on the road. Now they're having to go right back home now, play against a more physical, better defense, better team. To me, it's just a bad spot for the Texans. Could they win it? Absolutely. Joe Flacco, like you said, Joe Flacco could turn into Joe Flacco at any point. You made a great point there, right? Like, he could turn into old Joe Flacco at any point, and if that happens, all hell could break loose, and, hell, anything could happen. Texas could win by 2 touchdowns. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Flacco and the rest is going to help the Browns here. I think Cleveland wins this game by 10. I don't think it's a blowout by any means, but I just think Cleveland leads majority of the game and, maybe tacks on a field goal late to win by 10. But we can move on. Game 2. Interesting, and I'm going to love these weather games here. We got a game in Kansas City, right? We've got the number 6 Miami Dolphins, 11-6, taking on the 11-6 Kansas City Chiefs, who come in as the number 3 seed. The kickoff set for Saturday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank God the NFL has decided to put this game on Peacock so we can all watch it. If we don't have a Peacock subscription, we have to now subscribe to Peacock to watch the game. But the saving grace is we will get a commercial-free 4th quarter, so thank fucking God.
I unfortunately have Peacock. I get charged $6.50 for it every fucking month, and I never unsubscribe.
I do too.
I see it come out, I'm like, the fuck is that? Oh, Peacock again. It got me again.
I don't know how.
$6.50 every fucking month. So I have it.
The worst
I'll be able to stream it.
The worst one for me is the Fubo TV one. Whenever I want to watch a Pac-12 network game, I go get a new credit card and I subscribe to Fubo TV for the 7-day free trial. But those fuckers get you because on most free trials, you can cancel immediately, right? And then it'll just let you finish the 7-day trial. No, Fubo, they aren't doing that shit, right? You have to, if you unsubscribe, they cancel your subscription immediately. So you gotta toe the line there. It's like playing Russian roulette with your $57. And if you want to watch that, you gotta I add on all the sports packages because it's fucking free, right? So I go and then I had done it about 17 times and I got away with it every time. And that damn 18th time I fucking forgot and they charged me $74.99 with all my packages.
You deserve that. You owe them that fucking money.
No, fuck Fubo TV. All right, bullshit. All right, that's why I go to YouTube TV.
I've actually never forgot to cancel it, but I definitely back in my heyday have done that before.
Yeah, YouTube TV, official sponsor, non-official sponsor of the Slobberknocker Sports Podcast.
Peacock TV.
Peacock TV. But back to this game real quick. It is on Peacock, and if you don't have it, I don't think they actually offer a free
What's the
trial.
weather going on?
So weather could definitely play a key role, and it's a great point. So the day before kickoff, we're expecting 1 to 2 inches of snow in Kansas City. And at game time, it's projected to be 19 degrees and feel like 3 degrees. The low at night, which I don't think it's going to get here. I think this is more like middle of the night, but the low at night in Kansas City is -6 degrees, which would feel like -24. Again, I don't think we're going to get there. I think it's going to be more in the 15 to 19, 20 range. So it's going to feel close to 0, though. Winds are going to be up to 15 miles per hour. Obviously, weather is a huge advantage to Kansas City, right? Like, we have the South Beach Miami Dolphins and T-Rex Tua going on the road to Kansas City. I don't know how.
T-Rex Tua.
I don't know. T-Rex Tua. I don't know how often we're gonna get a good game out of Tua in weather. He's not that great in South Beach as it is. But you add in the psychological aspect of this game, right? The Dolphins basically looked to have all but clinched the division 5 weeks ago. They led by 3 games over the Bills. They basically collapsed down the stretch. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get the job done on Sunday night, and the Bills take home the division. Now Miami has to go on the road. But the big story of this game, and we'll start here.
Before you tell me the line, let me tell the people this.
Yeah.
I don't gamble anymore. I'm retired. I don't know what the line is. I guarantee you the Chiefs are going to win this game by a touchdown or more.
I already bet it.
Guarantee it. Like I said, I have no idea what it is. The Chiefs, this is this out of all the spots in the playoffs, this has got to be the worst one.
It is.
The Dolphins can't play in cold weather.
Yep.
Tua it doesn't like pressure, and that's all Kansas City does. It's going to be, I think it's going to end up being a bloodbath.
It is.
It's like they blew the division at home. They could have been playing at home. They could have had 2 playoff games at home. Now they have to go on the road to KC. KC hasn't been playing that well. They're going to take this game very serious. Pacheco's going to run it 1,000 times. They're going to dink and dump to him. Kelsey will get involved. I'm going to say the Chiefs win this game by 2 touchdowns.
I actually think you're exactly right. I think you're spot on. And part of why I think that is I do feel bad for Miami. The injury bug has hit this team worse than I've ever seen.
Everybody's hurt.
I don't think I've seen a team this decimated by injuries in ever. I mean, they essentially have lost their entire offensive line. Taron Armstead is the only offensive lineman, I believe, who started the season, who's still starting. You look at it, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, both questionable for this game, didn't play last game, right? We know Bradley Chubb, star defensive end, tore his ACL. Javon Holland has been dealing with a knee and ankle injury. He's questionable for the game. Doesn't look like he's going to go. I could list the injuries that they've had on this season, but then after all those injuries in the Buffalo game, they lose Andrew Van Ginkel and Cameron Good, both their starting linebackers, for the playoffs in that game. I mean, you just can't make this up. They've had Tyreek Hill's fucking house caught on fire 2 weeks ago. I mean, it just everything that could go wrong.
Did you hear why he was upset about that?
Why?
He couldn't play Fortnite. I swear to God. Didn't he say that in a press conference? I swear it was something like that.
Oh, that's fucking
Yes, no, he did. They're like, what? He's like, oh, yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to play Fortnite tonight or something something like that. I swear I'll find it. It was something along those lines.
It didn't actually burn all the way down, right? It was just kind of a house fire and had some damage.
I think so.
Yeah.
So I was going to inconvenience him that he couldn't play games that night.
Yeah,
So
I mean, when one of your 9 kids is playing with a cigarette lighter inside, bad things tend to happen.
Is that what happened?
Supposedly, yes. I don't know if it was Tyreek Jr.
That might be the least surprising news ever.
Yeah.
Cigarette light. One of Tyreek Hill's kids lit a pillow on fire.
Man, I watched Tyreek Hill in that first episode of the Miami Hard Knocks in season, and I was like, man, this guy's real mature. That's what he presented, and I hadn't ever seen much press conference with him or anything. I'm like, man, they're talking about their business and all this type of stuff that him and his wife do, and then I find out 2 days later he's got 7 kids with 4 different women, and he's
while being married.
While being with his girlfriend, his longtime girlfriend, who's married to, who is Kenny Vaccaro's sister, who played at Texas. We can go into that, but we'll keep that on the down low. Anyway, it's just been a bad stretch for the Dolphins, right? And you look at the health of the defense specifically, and I know Kansas City has struggled. We all know that Travis Kelce has had a horrific year basically because solely, Taylor Swift. I mean, I think we can all say it 100%. This is the reason. Taylor, you've cost Kansas City. The Swifties might come after me, but you've cost Kansas City another Super Bowl here. Travis Kelce does not care about football anymore. All he cares about is marrying Taylor Swift. Who was the guy, Joe Coy, who made the joke about her on the Golden Globes the other night? Yeah. Travis Kelce, Killa Kelsey's coming after you, buddy. I would watch out if I were you.
You don't go after the Swifties, bro.
In all seriousness, though, he's had his worst career since 2015. He's
been fucking horrible. He's checked
horrible.
out.
Yeah, he's checked out. 5
100%.
touchdowns, less than 1,000 yards.
He may
receiving.
play one more year. He's done. That's it.
So just real quick, because I know you're picking the Chiefs, I'm picking the Chiefs. We can move on, but what's your take on this Chiefs team in terms of after this game? Do they have a chance to actually make a run here? Or do you think Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid will have that type of switch that some teams have, like Brady used to, where they get in the playoffs and they just find ways to win? Or is this just not a Kansas City team that has a chance to win at all?
I don't know. I've made the mistake of doubting them before. They could make a run, but I really do think the big issue is Kelsey, and I really just don't think he cares much.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my feeling on it. I don't know.
That's what it looks like.
To me, it looks like he's kind of going through the motions, and maybe he's like, hey, I'll pick it up in the postseason. But, now he's an entertainer. He's got one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He's dating.
Shout out New Heights.
The most famous person in the world.
Yes.
So, football comes third.
I get that. But I do think
it shouldn't, but I'm just saying. At
no,
this
no,
point,
it
I mean,
does.
That's just what
it
that's
does.
what it is. So
it does.
I don't think they could go up because if they both win, they would go to Buffalo.
And I want to get to that in a second. That's going to be exciting.
They could. I do hope that game happens,
Would love that.
And then of course, I mean, it's Buffalo Bills. They could lose a game, obviously.
I just find it hard to believe with Mahomes never having gone on the road in the playoffs, they're going to go win back-to-back road playoff games. Like, I just find that hard to believe. Like, they're going to have to go basically most likely to Buffalo and then to Baltimore if they win. So
yeah, I don't think they'll win both those. I think that they've always kind of had the Bills' number in a sense,
right?
Especially in the postseason. But those games have been in Arrowhead; they've been very close,
right?
So I don't know. Hopefully, the Bills take them out. We'll see.
Yeah, let's look at the last playoff game real quick. The AFC game number 3, the Buffalo Bills, number 2 seed, somehow the number 2 seed Buffalo Bills taking on the somehow number 7 seed Pittsburgh Steelers, the battle of teams who we don't know how they got here. This game is going to be kicked off at 1 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. The Bills opened an 8.5-point favorite. It quickly got bought up to 10, so professional money on the Bills early. Total of very low 35.5. Speaking of weather that we saw in Kansas City, similar thing in Buffalo, right? We have a little bit warmer than Kansas City. Weather in Buffalo, the high on the day of the game is 24 degrees. The low is 14. It's going to feel like around 1 degree at kickoff.
Yeah, the wind's probably going to be blowing like 40 fucking miles an hour.
And we've got some snow.
I mean, I can't imagine in that kind of game the Bills. Look, we've seen the Bills play, right? They don't, especially lately. They've been finding ways to win games. That's what they do. They find ways to win. But I don't think. Obviously, I think T.J. Watt's going to be out. That's the
huge thing.
And I assume even if
he is out, he is out.
So then, I mean, that's the nail in the coffin for the Steelers. If they had him, and he could, maybe make a couple big plays, stripping the ball from Allen or sacking him. But I think this is going to be a fucking hideous game, and I think the Bills will win by 7.
Yeah.
That would be my guess. Maybe even a fucking field goal. I don't know. I mean, the Bills will find a way to win, and they'll move on like they've been doing lately.
I actually thought the Steelers had a shot to win it until I heard not that I thought they would. I just thought that they had an actual very
the
small
weather's
chance.
that fucking bad, then anything can happen.
But with T.J. Watt out, that's just you can't understate that loss.
He's the heart and soul.
He's the heart and soul of the team. If you have him and Cameron Hayward in the middle, you have a chance to actually stop the Bills' run game, which is what they've pretty much done, religiously lately. But, I totally agree. The Steelers finished the season on a 3-game win streak. Mike Tomlin obviously sold his soul to the devil, and the devil, he delivered again for Mike Tomlin and got him in the playoffs because thank you to, God bless, Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars and Bailey's Tennessee Titans and Ryan Tannehill for taking down bum-ass Trevor Lawrence, who, like I predicted at the beginning of the year, would not make the playoffs, and I was correct once again. Now, I will give you credit. You maintained the Bills were going to make it all year, and they did. But I did say the Jacksonville Jaguars were not going to, and I said they were going to lose that last game and miss the playoffs, and they did. And so because of that is why the Steelers got in here at the 7th seed.
So who would have been, say the Jags win?
Jags would have been. It would have been the Texans as the 7th seed. The Jags would have been the 4 seed.
Bills would have been playing the Texans?
The Bills would have been playing the Texans, yes.
Oh, shit.
The Bills would have been playing the Texans.
They're happy to be playing the Steelers.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Texans are decimated with injuries, too, but I'll say this. They're happy to be playing the Steelers without T.J. Watt because with T.J. Watt and that horrible weather, I wouldn't want to play the Steelers.
No,
just
I wouldn't either.
A weird fucking team, and you're one play away from losing the game, you know, so... That's what's funny about Buffalo is they are used to that weather, so it is somewhat of an advantage. But typically the way that team plays, it actually, that's what they've been saying for years. If Josh Allen's going to be there 10 years, they need to build him a damn dome.
100%.
Because it's detrimental to the team. But I think that he really, although the weather's bad, I'm sure he'll make mistakes. He really does kind of thrive in that horrible situation weather because, he played it in Wyoming too, which is, horrible weather all the time up there when you get into November, December. So he's definitely used to it, and, that's a big advantage. Who are the Steelers starting? Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, Mason Rudolph. He's won every game he started, yeah.
Well, I mean, I figured it had to be him. Yeah, like I said, the Steelers have been playing fine ball. But, yeah, it would have been a much more fun game if T.J. Watt was playing, I'd say.
100%. It's going to be an ugly game, like you said. I don't know that – I actually was going to jump on the Steelers at anything over a touchdown and bet them if T.J. Watt played. But with him out, I can't do it. Because I just could see the Bills, getting up early.
If I were you, man, I don't know, 10 points in shitty weather against the Bills. The Bills just don't blow anybody out.
What I might do, actually, is tease it and get it over 14. I just have a hard time believing it's going to get over that. I could see the Bills maybe winning by 10 or 14, but but more than 14 would be tough in that environment, the way the weather's going to be. There's snow flurries projected, too, in the game, which is going to be fun. We're going to see, hopefully, 2 snow games on Sunday, or Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah,
but
that'll be good.
Real quick, before we wrap up this preview, and we'll bring Big Dog in here real quick to give his quick takes. We're going to obviously preview this next week if we get there, but if the Bills and the Chiefs both win, we'd get a rematch. Really, it'd be Volume 3 of Mahomes versus Allen in the playoffs. The last time they met was that epic game in Arrowhead Stadium where the Chiefs, tied it in the final seconds when it looked over, and then the Chiefs get the ball first in overtime. They don't go down, score a touchdown, win the game. It essentially prompts the NFL to change the overtime rule in the playoffs, where both teams get to possess the ball regardless of what happens, which is a good rule, by the way. Should be the whole season that's the case. Regardless, this would be the first time the game would be in Buffalo, right? The last 2 games have been in Arrowhead. Who would you pick? I know you're
going to pick the Chiefs, but I'll pick the Bills.
I not necessarily pick the Chiefs.
I'll take the Bills at home just because they've been really close in Arrowhead. Like, those games could have gone either way. And really the big factor for me is Kelsey just being MIA.
Yeah.
I mean, he just is. And without him, I really don't think that team could go on the road and win in Buffalo. It's a tough place to play. And I just don't think without him they would win. No, it would be a good game. I don't think Buffalo would blow them out by any stretch, but I think they'd find a way to win that game.
Here's my one thing, and I think Buffalo has an edge a little bit in that game. I think they'd probably be a 3.5 point favorite. But
at home, yeah.
But my thing about it is when you watch the Bills, I've said this all year. Obviously, I think there's something wrong. Not wrong, but I just don't think they're that great. But late in games, when they're up, they almost always go to this weird defense where there's just one of two things. They either just drop everybody and they allow big chunk plays. We saw them lose the game to the Eagles like that. We saw them lose the game to the Broncos like that. We saw them really do that against the Dolphins last game, and Tua just throw a horrible pick. It looked like the Dolphins had a chance to score there. Or they bring everybody, in which case they leave guys on islands and they don't have the corners to cover like they have in past years. So my only issue with it, my only worry with Buffalo in that spot is that I think they'd pretty much have to beat Kansas City, relatively thoroughly, because if late in the game Kansas City has the ball with a chance to go win or tie the game, I just don't know how they don't score, because McDermott just is horrible in those situations. So that would be my worry with Buffalo. It's like I would never feel comfortable with them watching a game until they've just up by 2 scores under 5 minutes, and I don't know that they're good enough to beat the Chiefs by 2 scores.
They blew one to the Chiefs when there was 13 seconds left.
Was that game in Arrowhead, or was that in?
Yeah, it was in Arrowhead.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm gonna pick I would pick the Bills in that game, but barely, like by a field goal.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. Me decided by.
I want to talk on the coaching carousel, but we'll see if Big Dog wants to come in real quick, because I know Bailey's got to go soon. So let's bring him in.
Let's bring in Big Dog.
All right, we'd like to welcome in Big Dog here. He's back. He's here for only a few minutes, but he's graced us with his presence. He's going to make his intro, as always, with his karate chops, his Elvis. Let's try not to... the belt buckle.
Boy.
The belt buckle.
The greatest
sports... No, don't pull it back. Don't pull it back. Come on. Squeeze in there.
The greatest sports mind
I got to take
in the world.
Boy, do I have a
All right, the floor is yours, Big Dog. Go ahead and give us your take.
Number one, Jim Harbaugh's not going to the Chargers, I don't think. This is why. Wife, kids, Washington area / or Chicago. Those are the picks.
Washington?
Listen to me. What pick did they have?
The fuck are you smoking?
What did the pick does Washington have?
I think they have the second pick.
Second pick. You get Squirrely, number 13 from USC to and then you get him to the who's taking him?
Who? Caleb Williams?
Yep.
Caleb Williams is probably going to the Bears at 1.
The Bears. You're going to get Washington getting the best quarterback, which is the guy from LSU.
Actually, I think the number.
So Jim gets to
they're
build.
projecting that Drake May is going to be picked second.
No, he's not. That's who Jim would pick, and it's dumb. That's exactly who he'll pick.
I do agree with you.
He goes to Chicago. He gets to pick who he wants, or Washington. I mean, either one, Chicago or Washington. He's by his brother. I didn't know his family lives on the East Coast up there in the thing, so he wants to be next to his dad and mom that are old. Being in Hollywood's just too far away. Chargers are a bad organization. That's Big Dog's first take. And I'll be right.
Wrong.
Are you wrong?
He's going to the Chargers.
You think so?
I think he wants.
I thought so too till today.
I think he wants Herbert.
Yeah,
and
how could you leave
there's
Herbert?
these crazy things called airplanes that'll get you across the country in 5 hours. So they're not taking horse and buggy anymore. It's not the fucking Oregon Trail.
All right. So
You've never taken a private airplane.
My God!
Oh, yes,
please.
I have. You're out of your mind. I have a pilot that used to work with me.
Yeah.
So
fly him around anywhere.
So he has a Learjet. So the bottom line is that number one. Number two, I have a take this year that I was so on about everything. I was amazing this year. I mean, quarterback picks for the team. I was on fucking fire.
Every week he says this.
I swear to you.
It's never right.
And it wasn't for, seriously, if the running back from Washington doesn't get completely, he can't even run. That guy should never have been out there. I would have been right, because let me tell you something. The quarterback, like I told Dylan yesterday's take before the show, for the damn Michigan Wolverines is horrendous. That guy is so bad. What do you have? 50 yards passing at halftime. No, at halftime he had 50 yards. It was ridiculous. And
real quick, Turner.
And if it wasn't, another thing is
no. Who played a better game yesterday, Penix or McCarthy?
I mean, I guess McCarthy.
Thank you.
Yeah. But that's.
I mean, he just handed the ball off.
Right.
Exactly.
That's all he had to do.
But that's all he had to do. That's
and the
smart.
second thing is how biased and how ridiculous the media is. They all cover Harbaugh, which is stupid. There's more to that story in the Michigan win. The story is number 7, Edwards. That's the story. That is the story of this game. If you take those kids 2 runs out of this game, you got a whole different ball game. To let a kid run 100 yards on 2 carries with 2 touchdowns, that's the game.
I think
you can say anything you want about Michael, about the quarterback from Washington. You can say anything you want about him. It is down to that number 7 running the ball.
Well, I think you could have run both those for touchdowns.
Fuck yeah,
you could have drove
me?
a fucking semi truck through those holes, man.
So
we got to go out and kick some field goals with him this week, by the way.
So basically, I could kick a 30-goal field with my
50
left
yards.
foot. With my left foot.
Oh, left footed.
Hey, real quick. Number 1, I could kick it backwards with my boots, my cowboy boots.
We'll have
real
to get
quick,
that on camera.
So I'm going to end this with this year. I was right about 79.77% on everything, and I was 100% right on quarterbacks and picking. And next year, I'm going to pick preseason quarterbacks on the show.
He'll let y'all know.
And I'm going to pick them.
Good. We'll have actual recordings of it.
And we're going to pick yours too, and I'm going to wipe your ass on picks.
Do you have any statement about Black Tom Brady and the Eagles? And
Oh, he'll be fine. He's fine. He always survives.
Me and Dylan both picked the Bucs.
BTB is
me
fine.
and Dylan both picked the Bucs
No,
this week. Any comment?
Eagles are going to
Turner admitted Jalen Hurts is not good on the show, by the way.
By the way, let me tell you something right now. Don't ever go against my word. So the bottom line is this. BTB is going to kick some ass, and the Eagles are going to absolutely kill Baker Mayfield. They're back in the playoffs. Just watch. All right.
So are they going to win a game after Baker?
I'm ending with my take. Yeah, I don't know. I don't got to see who they're going to play.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
This is the take. I said this on week 7, and I said it, and this is what I'm going to go on the record on today. After he was throwing picks and looked like crap, I said on the Green Bay loss, I think it was to the Vikings or one of the teams they lost to, that this kid, oh, no, he looks good. He's sitting tall in the pocket. He's throwing the ball. He's so bad. Dylan's like, he's so bad. I go, no, he's not. Then 6 weeks ago, I said, that dude's throwing the ball good. He is actually an NFL quarterback. He's good. And this was when they lost.
6 weeks ago, they were winning.
It doesn't matter. When they weren't winning is when I said it. Then then we went on record at the house saying.
Once they were winning.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They weren't winning that much. They win like 2 games in a row at that point. This is my point. That I picked him, and I knew it because why? Tall, sees the field, and can throw the ball quickly and release it quickly. And he what? Anticipation thrower. Thank you.
No, he's not.
So
yes,
you're talking about Jordan Love or who?
Yeah, he never even said his
Jordan
name.
Love, the Packers QB. Jordan Love. So that's another one I nailed.
14th quarterback who's his boy. Half of them are out of the league. Half of them are not starters anymore.
This year proves that I need my own show called The Big Dog Show. And that's where people come in with the deeds to their houses. They put them on the table, and I tell them what bets to do.
Oh, God. That would be the biggest shit show ever. But we should have people call in to have Big Dog's life advice. That's the only thing I agree we should do.
That would be funny. I also think maybe
I change lives.
The greatest show in television history, we could do Big Dog versus Mad Dog, and that would be just 2 absolute lunatics talking on air with big brains and life knowledge going at it head to head.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, you and Mad Dog Russo are the only 2 crazy enough to say that their 90-year-old mothers need to quit making the fucking veal parmesan.
I wouldn't even pick my 90-year-old. I wouldn't pick my 90-year-old mother up for Christmas. I'd have somebody pick her up. And I'd take her to whatever church or whatever. I would never go with her.
Well,
and I'd bring her back to the house, and I'd say, "How was church? Why would you go pick her up during football?" That's where we differ.
Yeah, Mad Dog actually went to church.
Yeah, I wouldn't pick her up. and I would have somebody pick her up and deal with her. If I have that money, I would have a car driver pick her up, take her to church, bring her by the house, then take her home pretty soon.
Yeah,
right?
You probably wouldn't. Well, your mom, you may have taken your mom to church if you wanted to shafted you that Sears catalog back in the 70s.
Yep, 10 years old. Stop giving me exactly what I want. No, maybe 11.
You said 11 last
11.
time. Yeah.
It was 11.
Real quick, I want to mention one thing because we talked about this last night. It's a good take.
Hurry up.
Okay, we watched after the national championship last night. It's so disappointing. I remember back in 2006 watching the Longhorns win, how good the post-game coverage was. And so, we used to get to watch the whole interviews of Mac Brown and Pete Carroll, and you had Vince Young come on the stand, and you got to see all the players and get the actual perspectives. And now, this is nothing against SVP. I like SVP. The post-game show is horrific. It's literally all a remote thing. He's interviewing fucking Reese Davis at the end. Who cares? Reese Davis isn't even a football guy. He's sitting there just calling the game. We have to listen to Reese Davis answer.
That's because he doesn't have anybody.
Tell us Tim Hasselback on there drawing up plays, and then you have these stupid remote interviews where he's interviewing Jim Harbaugh last night, and it's a 3-second delay in audio, and they're interrupting each other every 5 seconds. It's so bad. Have somebody on the ground interviewing him. How about we go and show the press conferences again? It's the worst post-game show. It used to be so much fun to watch an hour of post-game after the national championship.
SEC Network did that on Nick.
They're the only one who does it, SEC Network.
But SEC Network did it. But here's the thing. ESPN's pathetic because they look at the ratings. You could just have a peeled-off version, an ESPN Plus or one of them, or some channel that you designate for post-game. Everybody wants to know the post-game. So the Spurs everyone used to do it. Even TNT used to do longer post games. When the finals, they used to have long post games after. It's a joke. They don't want to allocate the TV. It's all about the dollars. They don't want to lose the money. So in their markets, they're not doing it because they're saying, oh, well, limited people watch it. Fan base watches it, creates it. ESPN's pathetic now. They're just a joke. They really are a joke. They're so tight. They're bringing in people. And that's all Scott Van Pelt. What the hell is he doing post game? First off, to go to the podium, have him be interviewed, and you can cut all that stuff up. So it's dumb. They should have a network.
Mad Dog versus Big Dog can bring it back.
Yeah.
Put him back on the map.
You want to see post-game. I want to see Steve say why he threw the ball 17 times in the Texas beginning of that game and why Michigan runs the ball and scores 2 touchdowns. It's unreal, and he throws the ball.
Well, that's the difference in the coaching for sure, because I said Sarkisian's just too proud of himself. He couldn't just run the ball the whole game. If Texas would have just ran the ball the whole game, probably would have won the game.
They would have won the game. Simple. They would have killed them.
Yeah, but they would have had a much better chance of beating Michigan last night, too.
Unreal. He's totally ego-based. He is ego-based. That's why I don't like that coach. I don't think he's right.
Yeah, but he's not.
And last
anywhere.
thing is this: before I get off the air, I'll predict Texas might not even they'll make the tournament, maybe the basketball team, but that coach is a joke.
Oh, he's a bum.
The joke for Texas coach, for Texas Longhorns basketball, joke. Get rid of him.
Real quick, we're close. Hold on.
Eat your money, boosters, get out of it.
Just stay here because we're going to close it out. But I want to say last thing. We've seen Kirk Herbstreit bring his golden retriever on, and it's become the dog of the country. I think it's only fitting that we bring the best dog in our household, Westbrook, not Jude, Westbrook onto the show. She should be our game day dog. She should be here during the show, sitting over here by us.
I think Westbrook and Brooklyn.
Westbrook and Brooklyn's our little chihuahua. Westbrook is named after Russell Westbrook. She's our 10-year-old golden retriever.
Worst player to ever play in the NBA.
She does.
Worst.
Great dog, bad player.
Great dog. She does fart quite a bit in the game room when we're playing.
Oh, shit.
She lets them go.
Number one, the best dog at the house is Jude. She can fit that golden retriever. We have 3. Golden retriever can actually fix a car. She can get up. She can do anything. That golden retriever's got an IQ of 132.
The dog is special.
It's higher than Donald Trump's
special,
IQ.
and I don't mean in a good way. All right. Real quick, we're going to close this out.
Wow, Ricochet shot at Donald to close the podcast out.
So. We're going to close it out. Quick shout out to my boy Michael Freitas, big Michigan Wolverines fan. Congrats on the win last night. You guys are the national champions. I'm glad they won. Glad for the Michigan fans who have been through a lot.
And Miami lost, right? Because he's a Dolphins fan too.
Miami lost. Yes.
Yeah, good. I told him. I said he could have Michigan, but he can't have the Dolphins.
You did say that. He texted me and said he was laughing at that take. He said
Tua's going to poop his pants in the playoffs out there in Kansas City.
Did you send me the Tua picture of him shitting his pants? I'm closing it out. Hold on. Sit down for a second.
I gotta go.
We're done. Let me finish closing out. So walk out in the middle of the show.
This guy's got fucking money to make.
I got things to do.
Please like and subscribe to the podcast. We're going to be doing some more jersey giveaways soon. So make sure you subscribe, like us, listen to us on any of your favorite platforms, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anything out there. All the support and comments and likes matter. Thanks for tuning in to our 15th episode. We might It might be next week. We might have a special guest coming in next week. We're going to start bringing some guests on the show. So make sure you tune in and keep notifications on for all of our content throughout the week.
Fourth camera for the couch.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what we do.
You can put them in the middle.
Yeah, put them in the middle. All right. Thanks, and thanks for tuning in.